What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today, we're talking about this.
Somewhere in this country, there are craft that are being held that have landed here or crashed here, and there are biologics, human, non-human bodies.
That's correct.
Someplace in this country?
Someplace.
In this program?
Correct.
All right, Vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, y'all. All right, we have a lot to talk about in today's video, but before we get to that, I want to mention a couple of things. Okay, first, make sure to listen at the very end for the voicemail message. Okay, as you know, we have the Vetted hotline, so make sure to call that number, leave a message when you want. Well, Jesse Michaels decided to call and leave a message, so make sure to stay to the end for the whole message.
What's up, Patrick? I appreciate everything you've been doing. Thank you for covering everything in the space and doing it daily. Your output is very, very impressive, and I appreciate you covering my stuff so much. It means a lot.
And coincidentally, Jesse Michaels has an interview coming out with Joe Rogan that I'm going to be covering in tomorrow's video, so stay on the lookout for that. All right, so the second thing I wanted to mention is something I really need your help with. Glenn Barden, who is the director of the upcoming documentary that I'm involved with, Psionics, okay, has a brand new project out, a podcast that you're going to want to hear about. Here's a trailer.
In 2021, a 15-year-old boy was charged with possession of child sexual abuse material. But that wasn't all they found on his computer. The judge summed it up with one chilling line. Rarely do we get to look evil in the face. What began as a single arrest soon revealed something far darker than anyone imagined. This wasn't just one disturbed teenager. This was something organized, something spreading, something the FBI would soon label one of the biggest domestic terror threats in America. I'm Sabrina Jones. And what if I told you that one of the most dangerous cults today isn't run by adults, but by kids? From Alamo Pictures, Soho Podcasts, and Wired Studios, this is Inside 764, a story that makes you question everything you thought you knew about the internet.
Yeah, this is dark stuff, but something that needs a light shed on. This is like real shit here, y'all. So I really need your help. Please go and subscribe to this channel. That would really mean a lot. As you can tell, you know, this is a big project. So please go hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and let them know that Vetted sent you. It would really, really mean a lot to me. I mean, the most dangerous cult you've never heard of? Yeah, I'm intrigued. Now, let's get to today's video, because there has been some talk about today's contents of the video. All right, so we're going to be covering a Fox News segment that has a lot in it, and I'm going to be breaking down a bunch of different things like I always do. So I tell you what, let's just get this moving.
Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle and other government officials believe they should know more about unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs. Tonight we look at reports on some of the secret government programs that are being alleged.
This is so secret. There have been very few people in our entire government that have been allowed or provided access to it.
A new documentary featuring former and current officials from across the federal government is attempting to connect the dots on secret knowledge of UAPs.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
CIA officials, DIA officials, naval intelligence officials, the list goes on and on.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
One-star admiral after 32 years of service.
Former Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet served as the Navy's chief oceanographer and meteorologist, and as acting administrator of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Why'd you take part in that? And of the voices in there, are you convinced that these are credible folks that are really coming forward for the first time?
All those folks are credible, Brett. They're all colleagues of mine. I've worked with them for years. This is going to change the arc of human history. The fact that we're not alone in the universe and that higher order non-human intelligences are visiting us and interacting with us, whose intent we really are unsure of still. That's just mind-blowing.
Not everyone is convinced by the film. The New York Times writes the claims are unprovable, and Variety calls it inconclusive. For us to be comfortable doing stories about it, we have to believe that these documents and these experts that we're talking to are telling us the right thing. How do you think the country, the world, will react when, if this happens, it's disclosed?
You have a slow process of information coming out of government, mostly from Congress, from intelligence community officials who've retired. And what we're seeing is that despite the amount of coverage on this, there isn't a lot of pickup on it in media, and people aren't really absorbing the significance of it.
Anthropologist Peter Skafish is co-founder and director of research at the Sol Foundation, a group that helps fund research into UAPs. Skafish interviews and conducts field work with witnesses.
I've had a lot of conversations with retired intelligence community people who have more or less verified this stuff to me directly.
How many people know this?
This has been an 8-decade cover-up. The total list has to amount to 100 or more.
I mean, there's a lot to cover in that first clip, and there's way more to cover, so stay with me. There's a lot more to that segment, but let's just focus on some different comments there, right? I mean, I like that Brett Baier is bringing up like that, you know, people are pushing back on this, you know, unprovable claims. Where's the evidence? Where's the proof, right? I've been saying the same thing. And of course, this continued conversation around the Age of Disclosure documentary, which Tim Gallaudet is in, but they also interviewed Peter Skafish, and there's way more interviews in this segment. So again, stay with me. But, you know, something there at the end really quickly, Tim Gallaudet saying, you know, how many, Brett Baier asked how many people are involved. Tim Gallaudet, you know, over 100. I mean, Dan Ferris said thousands have been involved with this, right? So it, again, not really on the same wavelength here, right? Like, how big is this cover up? Thousands of people would have to be involved with this. And then there would have to be thousands of people in all the other governments that they say are also doing this. So you've got probably tens of thousands of people that have just kept this completely secret this whole time, right? With no proof or evidence ever coming out. Lots of people saying things. That's true. There is that evidence. You have witness testimony evidence, but no actual physical proof has ever come out, right, publicly from the government, right? So I don't know. Again, very interesting, but this is a good conversation to have. And I get that we should be taking this more seriously. There's definitely enough to look into this. I'm not on board with, well, let's just dismiss it. They're all kooks. I don't think that's true, right? I don't know what exactly is true, but there's something going on. There's definitely smoke. Just where is the fire coming from? That's the problem. We don't really know, in my opinion. But this is at least creating a conversation. And Tim Gallaudet, look, he testified at one of the UFO hearings that they had, but he was also a little squirmish to admit certain things in his testimony. And then in other instances on podcasts and other interviews, he went a lot further. So I don't know. It kind of seems like under oath, they're willing to say one thing, which I get. But then in podcasts and interviews and things, they go further, because you don't have to go under oath when you're on a TV show or if you're on a podcast. So I don't know. It's something there that's off, but you know, that could be nothing. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into that. Let's continue.
Presidents have access to all classified information, but it's unlikely the commander-in-chief reviews everything on any specific subject. Officials estimate there are billions of classified documents in existence, and as many as 50 million classified records are added every year.
Various presidents have been told, but many have not been told.
Retired Colonel Carl Nell was the Army director for supporting the UAP task force. Why would a president not be told?
There was a feeling that elected officials might not be sophisticated or intellectual enough to deal with that kind of complexity.
The Sol Foundation alleges in a report the Eisenhower administration issued a directive giving UFO decision-making the same status as nuclear war powers.
A man whom I trust from the Air Force has said that it was, as far as he knew, it was completely inaccurate to believe that they came from any outside or planet or otherwise.
The presidents, who have asked for briefings on UAPs, say they have not learned of any suspected cover-ups.
So far as I know, they're not hiding information.
It's never been my thing, I have to be honest. I have never been a believer.
Nell believes presidents could be uninformed because he says private companies oversee the programs.
Eisenhower administration may have allowed this to slip out of elected official control into an unelected body that would manage these programs.
You understand the skeptics, right? The people who say this is complete BS. This can't be true. You understand where they're coming from, that there's nothing to show besides the, these videos and the testimony. But for them, they haven't seen it in person.
Sure.
To confirm it.
100%, Brett. Yeah, we want that smoking gun. We want the evidence, the data. And I mean, the most I have knowledge of, though, that was convincing to me is I saw the classified videos that have since been declassified, taken by Navy F-18 aircraft.
In 2015, Gallaudet was commanding personnel during a naval exercise off the East Coast when he received an email warning of near mid-air collisions. Attached was a video of the suspected threat.
Wow, look at him fly!
Gallaudet says the next day the email disappeared from his account. The Pentagon would eventually declassify the video more than 5 years later.
The Navy is sitting on a trove of UAP video data that they're not releasing.
That video and others prompted lawmakers to call for more transparency. Congress has requested reports from the Defense Department on sightings, and in each document, investigators found no links to extraterrestrial sources.
We take all incursions into our operating spaces seriously.
The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office is the government's current group looking into UAPs. Its findings have been consistent with past Pentagon investigations.
To date, AARO has found no verifiable evidence for claims that the U.S. government or private companies have access to or have been reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology.
Some former officials claim the U.S. government does have evidence.
We learned that the U.S. government was involved in a long-running secret war with other nations to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
But again, we run into the same problem, and it is nice to hear Tim Gallaudet say, yeah, we want the evidence, we want the smoking gun, right? Because it's not there, right? So those reviews from New York Times and Variety and whoever else is saying they are unproven claims as of yet. That doesn't make the claims, just horseshit. It just means there's enough there to look into, but we haven't crossed the finish line yet, in my opinion, with this. There's a lot of people saying a lot of things, and I agree we should put attention on it and look into this and investigate it. I'm all for that. But we have not got that smoking gun yet. Individual people may be convinced by certain things. Tim Gallaudet saying his email getting wiped, this, the video. Okay, now he's convinced that non-humans are visiting Earth. I mean, what? I mean, that just seems like quite a leap. And if that's their standard of evidence for themselves personally, it does make me a little suspicious of how they're so convinced of things, right? When you find out. It's like finding out how a magician does a trick and you realize, oh shit, he just had a piece of gum behind a stick and a thing, it's like nothing. But the illusion seems so grand, especially when you don't know how the illusion's done, your mind wonders. As soon as you find out and that wizard or the curtain gets pulled back on the wizard and you're like, oh, that's what this is? Like, I just hope that's not what all this is, right? Now, could it be, again, is it just some of it, the needle in the haystack, or is there 1,000 needles in this haystack, right? Or just one? And at the end of the day, the truth is, we only need one story to be true. We only need one thing to be true. And maybe they've used other stories to try to cover up the real one so you don't know which is the real one, right? It's just that, it's that simple. That could be it too. I don't know, right? Even the people coming out they're not all telling the truth, but that's on purpose, which would be a weird strategy, but who knows? Maybe that's the way to do it, right? I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here. I'm spitballing, right? And then again, Lou Elizondo at the end saying that these adversary nations are in a race to study craft of, that isn't made by man. But then in the same documentary, Luis Elizondo says he doesn't know where they come from. And in fact, even theorizes they could be human. They could be man. Just had branched off in a different, time, thousands of years ago or something, but admitting that they could be man. They could be humans. So how can you say non-human? Again, we keep bumping into these same contradictions that nobody catches if you're not paying attention, right? And to some extent, I almost think that's what they want. They don't want you to really pay attention, right? Like we covered in my video yesterday, or the other day that I did with George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell. They got things wrong in this that even they admit, things that demonstrably wrong, right, in this documentary. So I think there's this big push, but not all the information's true, right? So you can't say that these adversary nations are doing these things for craft that are non-human, and then in the same movie admit you don't know where they come from and they could be man. They could be man-made. What? It doesn't make sense. Again, they would just be it would be so much more credible if they came out and said, we think this because of this, right? We think this is happening because XYZ, but they speak in absolutes, and that's a problem. And make sure to stay with me because there's more to that particular instance. You saw Carl Nell in that clip. There's more from him we're going to cover, and I'm going to break down after we get through these Fox News segments.
Somewhere in this country, there are craft that are being held that have landed here or crashed here, and there are biologics, non-human bodies.
That's correct.
Someplace in this country?
Someplace.
In this program?
Correct.
The AARO has acknowledged an effort to create a UAP recovery program called Kona Blue, but says it was later canceled because it lacked merit, that no extraterrestrial craft or non-human entities were ever collected. Knowing what you know, is it conceivable there could be a government program that you don't know about?
I think it's conceivable that there are government programs that we don't know about.
Democratic Arizona Senator Mark Kelly logged more than 5,000 flying hours during his time in the Navy and spent more than 50 days in outer space as a shuttle pilot. Has anything happened in space or at the International Space Station that might signal that there's alien life out there?
So I have made 4 trips to the space station, all about 2 weeks in length, over a decade, and I have no personal experience with this. I have 54 days in space, which might sound like a lot. My twin brother, 520 days in space. People often look at him and say, hey, you must have seen something in all that time you've spent in space. And the answer is the same as the answer for me. Haven't seen anything that indicates anything visiting, our planet.
All right, so let's talk about one part of this clip that I showed at the beginning that a lot of people are talking about. It was this part.
Somewhere in this country, there are craft that are being held that have landed here or crashed here, and there are biologics, non-human bodies.
That's correct.
Someplace in this country?
Someplace.
In this program.
Correct.
So some people have speculated that, he was saying someplace like not in America, right? Not here, someplace else. I don't think that's really what he meant because it can't be. We've said Area 51. We've said Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Holloman, right? So many different places in America that's holding this stuff. People have even said there's military, labs and shit. I mean, what Bob Lazar? What about his story? It's in America. This stuff's in America. So I don't think that's what he meant, but people are running with that. Or are they saying both? We got it in America and we got it other places. That doesn't seem very safe, right? How much shit do we have? And we can't get any photos, videos, something. I don't know. This is just like, what are we talking about, right? But again, he's so confident. Carl Nell is so confident in what he's saying. Because if you're not familiar with who Carl Nell is, this is a viral clip of him that a lot of people know him from.
And so, Carl, here's the $1 million question. do you believe that a higher form of non-human intelligence has visited this planet?
Right. So non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing. And there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that.
And so, Carl, that is quite a bold statement. I'm wondering, and I'm curious, how confident are you that that is true?
There's zero doubt.
So, again, I really wish people would just say, you know, I think this is happening, but it's just zero doubt, leaving no room for error. How am I supposed to trust that? No room for error? You haven't even seen bodies or UFOs, yet there's no doubt? That just, I mean, I just don't like that. I just don't trust that. You could be wrong. But again, it's a way to really convince you, to get you on board, right? And the SALT conference is like an investment sort of conference. People invest money. I think that's all it is. They really want people to invest money in this because they're so certain. If they were a little whatever, maybe people wouldn't invest. Actually, they would. That's why you need the investment, so you can cross the finish line. Hey, we need help to get there. We think this is happening, and this is why. There's all these people that have come forward this time. We're not certain, but we really think it. Can you help us? God, you know how many more people would be on board with this? And it almost seems like that's on purpose. It's really to turn away people, not to bring them on board. It's to turn them away. It feels like this is all the opposite because it doesn't make sense. These people are so smart, they wouldn't think that through. I don't know. I could be wrong. But Carl Nell has talked a lot about disclosure, and his comments about disclosure are very interesting. Take this clip, for example, that a lot of people have not seen. This is what he really wants from the government, right, as far as disclosure goes.
I don't have any really good data. I'm not going to share any data, so it's all going to be sort of first principles type discussion. But I think that will lead into a process of talking about the disclosure. And so when I say disclosure, I mean, you know, the government probably has better and more information than's publicly available, and maybe we'd like them to share some of that with a broader group. And so disclosure is really about how do we influence the government to come forward with some information.
And look, I'm going to put a link in the description to that video that a lot of people haven't seen, that presentation. It's really long. It goes through a lot of stuff. But as he says, he brings no data. Not bringing anything. But hey, he's got zero doubt. I'm sure the guy's a nice guy. I'm not here to attack him personally. It's his comments and his claims that I'm questioning, okay? And that's with everybody, by the way. I'm not attacking anybody personally. It's just the claims, the things they say, right? It's nothing personal. But check this next clip out. This is Carl Nell talking on Global Disclosure Day, mind you, with the New Paradigm Institute on this live stream just in the last few months, okay? I made a video about this. And what Colonel Carl Nell says is mind-boggling.
Yes, the postulate I've got is that this recent cycle of disclosure that we might say started in 2017 with the Navy videos and Lou Elizondo coming out and as a whistleblower making various assertions, that cycle of disclosure is effectively ended with the failure to pass the UAP Disclosure Act and with sort of the fourth or third in a series of hearings on the topic that I think increasingly have moved the needle less and less. And so in some sense, it seems like the people that have been at the forefront of this recent cycle have said what they've had to say. It's starting to become stale in the sense of being repetitive. The conversation isn't necessarily advancing to new topics, but really more importantly, the mechanism in order to which to address these whistleblower issues is not gaining traction. And, you know, particularly to kind of maybe amplify upon that, I think the essence of that Schumer-Rounds amendment was to create a management structure that you could argue perhaps mirrored the original process that was maybe put in place by Truman and Eisenhower to manage this topic, but to do it in a manner that was assured to have proper congressional oversight and proper transparency and accountability to elected officials, which had ceased to pertain at some point in the past. And so essentially by not passing this, Congress has written themselves out of any type of way forward, and without a control group to manage the policy aspect, then the government's really not going to be in a position to deal with ramification of any released material. And so increasing whistleblowers, increasing attention is going to force the government into a reactive mode and really a hunker down mode. So my view is that this cycle essentially has ended, and we should take stock of what worked and what didn't work to think about maybe a new way forward. So that's sort of my view on the current state of play.
So again, on Global Disclosure Day, he says basically disclosure's dead. We need a new approach. But wait a second. What about the age of disclosure coming? Now he's promoting that out there on the Fox News. What are we talking about? I thought we're in the age of disclosure. Not disclosure's dead. Again, not a unified front here. It's many cooks in the kitchen. Nobody knows what's going on. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians, right? It's like, it's just kind of all over the place, if you ask me. Now, let's move to a very interesting part of this Fox News segment that is at the very end. Now, they kind of talk about it through the segment, but it's this.
Obviously, there's a lot of interest in these stories. Some people call it crazy, but these reports are happening. We'll continue to follow the UAP stories as more information comes to light, and we'll see how the Trump administration responds to all of these reports.
So yeah, let's see what Trump is going to do, right? Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. What does this activate, right? What does this convince people to do? What calls to action? Because otherwise you're just talking to into the void, right? Is it just to get people to buy the documentary, rent it, get people interested in the topic? Okay. But that's not what they've been promoting with the age of disclosure. They've been promoting that this is going to convince Congress and get the president to come out and give a speech that we're not alone and yada, yada. But I'm going to really break this down and show you that, in my opinion, that's not going to happen. Check out this article from the International Business Times, if that's a real thing. Anonymous sources told Radar Online that the president has already ramped up the personal interest in these alien-related files and is currently positioned to authorize an unprecedented level of disclosure, setting the stage for a monumental confrontation with decades of institutional secrecy. Oh, of course, anonymous sources. Love that. I wonder who those people are. Yeah, can take a good guess. Probably just people from age of disclosure, right? But he's going to declassify this, that, the other. I thought he was going to give a speech to say we're not alone. Now it's the goalposts have moved, and now just files are going to come out. I mean, I'm all for that, but that's not the same thing. So look, let's take a look at a clip of Lex Fridman interviewing Donald Trump back when he was running for president. So Donald Trump went and did all these interviews, right? And I'm going to show you a few different podcasts that he went on. This is the first one he went with Lex Fridman.
A lot of people are very interested in footage of UFOs. The Pentagon has released a few videos, and there's been anecdotal reports from fighter pilots. So a lot of people want to know, will you help push the Pentagon to release more footage, which a lot of people claim is available?
Oh, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I would do that. I'd love to do that. I have to do that.
That clip is so funny. That's the most Trump quote ever, right? I'd love to do that. I'd do that. I have to do that. This is going to happen. I'll do that. I'll do that. All right, now let's move to a segment with Logan Paul. Yes, Logan Paul also interviewed him during his campaign run, right? And what he had to say about UFOs is exactly really what he's been saying. And look, Logan Paul is very involved in the UFO community in a lot of ways. So, it doesn't surprise me that he asked about it.
Aliens. I want to talk to you about aliens.
Yeah.
UFOs, UAPs.
I know.
The disclosure we've seen in Congress recently. It's confusing and upsetting a lot of Americans because there's something happening. There are unidentified aerial phenomena in the sky. We don't know what they are. Do you?
So it's such a question I do get a lot, and it's such an interesting question. I've met with pilots that look just like you, actually. Okay, they have more of a crew cut. Okay, They look like him, and they look like you. Some of them look like you.
A little fatter.
But these are perfect people.
Okay.
And they're not
crazy.
conspiratorial. They're not crazy.
Yeah.
And they tell me stories that they've seen things that you wouldn't believe. These are not people that you would say, gee,
No way.
oh, that's
There's no
okay.
way. President of the United States.
But
I said, was
who
your
is
phone
it? That's
silent?
Joe Biden wanting to do an interview. So I've met with pilots, like beautiful, Tom Cruise, but taller, okay?
Yeah.
Handsome, perfect people. Sir, there was something there that was round in form and going like 4 times faster than my super jet fighter plane. And I look at these guys, and they really mean it.
Yeah.
And am I a believer? No, I can't say I am. But I have met with people that are serious people that say there's some really strange things that they see flying around out there. And, if you go to Nevada and you look at that little section of where they go to look at the aliens, where they think all the aliens are landing, that, it's I think it's maybe the #1 tourist attraction in the United States.
Roswell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roswell. I think it's the #1. It's the lines of people waiting. You have no idea how many times I'm asked that question.
But don't you have access to that information?
I have access, and I speak to people about it. I've had actually meetings on it, and they will tell you there's something going on. When they say things are going 4 times faster than my beautiful top-of-the-line airplane that goes, real fast.
With no identifiable propulsion
Mach
system.
2,
Yeah.
right?
These things are creating their own gravity fields, allegedly.
Well, they have people that are very smart and very solid have said they believe there is something out there. And, it makes sense that there could be. I've never been convinced, even despite that. I just, for some reason, it's not my thing. But a lot of people believe that it's true. A lot of very good, solid people believe it's true.
But again, here we are, right? Donald Trump doesn't really care about this. Like, he cares about the people coming to tell him. He thinks they're legitimate people and all of that, and he's whatever. But at the end of the day, he's not even convinced. He's not even convinced of anything. So what are people saying that he's going to come out and give disclosure? I mean, that's just, my opinion, not going to happen. Again, he cares about the people coming to tell him, the witnesses, the fighter pilot, all this stuff, right? All great people. Tom Cruise, but taller, right? But at the end of the day, it's just not really his thing. He doesn't really care. So what people were saying, oh, in 2016, he was actually going to come out and give disclosure then. No, he wasn't. And no, he's not now. He may declassify some files, but that doesn't mean anything. Yes, I'm excited if we get more data and more information and more files, great. But that's not a press conference to the world stating we're not alone, because he would be a laughing stock without any proof. And he has access to more things than anybody. And even he's not convinced. I mean, on this same campaign trail, he did an interview with Joe Rogan, and what he said there is also shocking.
One of the things that
there's a lot of interest in the people coming from space,
Yes.
And I know you're interested in that.
Oh, I'm very interested in that. How much did they tell you about that?
A lot.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd they tell you? How much can you tell?
So
how's that work? Is it like super top secret?
I can tell,
Tell me.
Well, based on Hunter Biden, I can say whatever the hell I want, right? But no. But I interviewed a few people. It's never been my thing, I have to be honest. I have never been a believer. I have people that Area 51 or whatever it is, I think it's the #1 tourist attraction in the whole country or something. Area 51 in Las Vegas. Do you know that, right?
Sure, I know what it is.
So anyway, but it's a big tourist thing. So I interviewed jet pilots that say they saw something. If you saw them, you'd love to have them as
I've
your
had a
son.
couple in here. Commander David Fravor.
Yeah.
I had him in, who had that sighting in 2004. Very compelling with video evidence, radar evidence. Ryan Graves.
I don't believe his name, but I interviewed jet pilots that were solid people. Perfect. I mean, great pilots, great everything. And they said, we saw things, sir, that were very strange. Like a round ball, but it wasn't a comet or a meteor. It was something. And it was going 4 times faster than an F-22, which is a very fast plane, And it was round. which is in theory a great shape.
So when you were talking to these people, was this something that you were compelled to have conversations about? Was this your personal interest?
A little bit. It's not a great interest for me, but it's a little interest. I get that question as much as almost any question. Do you think that we have aliens coming, flying around or whatever?
What do you think?
There's no reason not to. I mean, there's no reason not to think that Mars and all these planets don't have life, because
Mars, we've had probes there and rovers, and I don't think there's any life there.
Well, maybe it's life that we don't know, but
maybe there was life there at one point in time. This is the speculation about Mars, that Mars had an atmosphere at one point in time, a long time ago, that could support life. It also had large bodies of water, but we've had no evidence of even bacterial life that exists on Mars. But the universe is pretty vast.
It's not been a big thing for me. I mean, when I looked at what China did to this, they would have never done it with me, where they put the balloon up, and a lot of people thought for a little while that was one of these things. So,
well, that's a lot of the speculation too, that some of these drones that hover over battleships, that these are Chinese drones, and that they're not UFOs.
They could be also.
There's some super sophisticated.
But I did interview, let's say 3 or 4 guys and without tremendous interest, if you had them. As I said, you'd love to have them as your children. Solid, beautiful people. They said, "Sir, there's something there."
There's something there.
They've said it, yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to quite a few of them.
They're not conspiracy guys.
Again, first it was Roswell, and then Area 51 is the #1 tourist attraction. I think he just gets them all confused because he doesn't know. He cares because people ask him about it, but he does. At the end of the day, he's just not really affected by this. Again, he trusts the people coming to tell him. He doesn't think they're crazy, but there's just no indication that Donald Trump is ever going to give a press conference and tell us we're not alone in the universe, right? I just don't see that happening. And here's a great example. In this same clip, right before they talked about UFOs, they talked about the JFK files. And I think this gives you a great indication of exactly how Trump is going to handle this.
One of the things that I want to talk to you about is the JFK files. And one of the things that you said was that if they showed you what they showed me, this was your quote, you wouldn't want people to know it either.
So I opened them up partially. I was met from good people. I mean, good people. People that were well-meaning. Mike Pompeo was one of them. He's a good person. They called me. They said, "Sir, would rather have you not." And I did open them, but I was asked by some people not to open them. There's a Martin Luther King file too, by the way, that they'd like to see. I don't know if you know, but there is that. But JFK in particular. So they called me. A lot of good people called me. People that that you would find reasonable people. And they asked me not to do it. So I said, well, we'll close it for another time. But if I win, I'm going to open them up. I'm just going to open enough time.
Why didn't you open it up the first time?
Because a lot of times,
what was the hesitation, though?
Addresses, people that are still living. There are people that are affected. And there could be some national security reason that I don't have to necessarily know about. But some very good, talented people asked me not to do it. I opened it up, and then they said, would it be possible for us to do that a different day?
How much of it did you read into?
I think it's going to be just fine to open it. Let me put it that way. I think it's fine. It's going to be time. It's a cleansing. It's really a cleansing. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it immediately, almost immediately upon entering office.
Well, the thing, when people look at it from the outside and you sort of imagine what could be a reason why they would not release those files, it would be there's people that were implicated in the assassination.
Yeah. Well, when there are living people, you generally tend not to want to do it. When people are still living
people that formerly work for the government.
And living people that were somehow involved in it, and you tend not to do that. But it's time to open them. I can't tell you whether or not they're going to find anything of interest. And I did partially open. I think I've opened 50%, but I was asked not to do it, and I thought that was a reasonable ask. But now I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it very soon. There's a lot of interest in it.
Yeah. I mean, he's afraid of people that are still alive and, their address, this, that. I mean, what is he? People are saying the UFO legacy program is happening right now. We got tens of thousands of people. We spent $1 trillion and he's not concerned about this. I mean, what are we talking about? And you're telling me Elon Musk with the efficiency program didn't find anything about this? Again, things just aren't adding up, if you ask me. Now, Elon Musk probably knows more about aliens than he's admitting. I will admit that. And would he not want to uncover $1 trillion? I don't know. It just seems like Trump would want to, regardless. I don't know. It just seems very like, you know, he cares, so he wants to address it with people that think about it. But he also listens to people in his orbit. And people in his orbit, what are they saying to him? I just don't see it happening. I see some files coming out, but I just don't see it happening. And then what? They're going to blame Trump because they blamed the last administration for not doing anything. Then they'll blame this administration, every administration. Basically, everyone else is going to get blamed except the people that come out with no evidence of their claims. We'll never hold those people accountable. Why not? If you really want disclosure, you really want to pressure, that's who I would be pressuring. Forget Congress, forget the president, forget all these people. Pressure the people coming out to show evidence of their claims. Let's start there, right? Let's start there. So anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments. You know, it's a lot here. I know. All right, y'all. We'll see you guys on the next one. Don't forget the Joe Rogan interview with Jesse Michaels actually just dropped while I was filming this video, and I don't feel like refilming the first part. So go check that interview out. I am going to make a video about it tomorrow and cover all of it. But it was really nice of Jesse Michaels to leave a voicemail. So make sure to stay here to the end to listen to the whole voicemail he left. It was really kind of him. He did not have to do that, y'all. And he's got a brand new set that looks sick as hell, y'all. I'm so jealous. A UFO set. I mean, it looks great. So anyway, shout out to Jesse Michaels. Thank you so much for calling in. And of course, if you want to call in and leave your story, you have a comment, you have a sighting, an experience, leave it. And I pick one for every single video and play it at the very end. All right, vetters, we'll see you in the next one. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
What's up, Patrick? I appreciate everything you've been doing. Thank you for covering everything in the space and doing it daily. Your output is very, very impressive. And I appreciate you covering my stuff so much. It means a lot. Obviously, it's kind of a rising tide raises all ships, and mainstream media just ignores all these subjects kind of religiously. So I appreciate you, man. And when I'm back on the pod circuit, I would love to come on. And yeah, hope all is well. Hope you had an amazing Thanksgiving, and hope all of the vetted viewers are having a blast. You've been crushing it, man. I appreciate you.